Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the ETP March virtual meeting. And before we get things started, we'd like to get the webinar instructions from Tina.
Yes, let me share my screen really quickly. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the March panel meeting. This is the Zoom information here. Attendees will be muted with the following exceptions. Presenters will be unmuted during their presentations. Contractor representatives will be unmuted during their proposal introduction and if called upon by a panel member. Public comment will be done throughout the meeting and when announced by chairperson at the appropriate times. For public comment, to comment, use the raise hand feature to request to speak. Wait until your name is called. The host will unmute you so that you can speak. Please be aware there will be a 3-minute limit per speaker.
Thank you, Tina. Okay, so this meeting will now come to order, and we'd like to start off with a roll call of officers, roll call of panel members.
Thank you. Roll call, Rick Smiles.
Present.
Gretchen Newsom.
Present.
Ernesto Morales.
Present.
Madison Hall. Douglas Tracy.
Present.
Arceli Campa Ramirez.
Present.
Thank you. Chairperson Smiles, there are 5 members present. There is a quorum. Also present, you're welcome, sir. Also present, Reg Javier, Executive Director, Peter Cooper, Assistant Director, Eric Shiners, Assistant Director, Jaime Gutierrez, Chief Deputy Director, Tara Armstrong, Deputy Director, Technical Branch, also CIO, Mario Maslak, Chief of Operations, and Michael Cable, Staff Attorney.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Do we have any hand raised by the public?
No hands raised at this time.
Thank you. Okay, so let's go ahead and we have an action item to approve the March panel meeting agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second to approve the March panel meeting agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Thank you. Okay, the next order of business is to approve the February panel meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second. Yeah. Sorry.
Thank you. We have a first and a second to approve the February panel meeting minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Okay, next we have our executive report, and the chair recognizes Reg Javier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, panel members, stakeholders, and staff. I'd like to also welcome the following managers who will be presenting the proposals to you later this morning: Kellen Hernandez, Chris Hoover, and Phil Boyer. For today's panel meeting, you will see 22 proposals totaling about $6.5 million in funding requests, which includes 5 delegation orders. A few updates. First, I'd like to introduce a new member to our executive team here at ETP, Eric Shiners. Hey, Eric, can you wave your hand really quick? Eric Shiners is our new Assistant Director and Chief Counsel. The governor just appointed him a couple weeks back now. And Eric and Mike like to say, we've literally doubled our legal team overnight. So Eric, you will all start seeing Eric's name quite a bit, and he'll be probably engaging you a lot more over the coming weeks as he gets settled into his new role. So welcome aboard, Eric. Also announced this past week, I wanted to recognize that our interim chair, Rick Smiles, was reappointed by the governor to the panel. So congratulations, Rick. And then I also wanted to introduce you all to 2 new panel members that were also appointed by the governor this past week. Rebecca Bettencourt who will also serve as the appointed chair over the course of the next few panel meetings. Rick and Rebecca will be sort of tag teaming panel meetings, sort of co-chairing until we get Rebecca completely settled in. But Rebecca comes to us from as the Senior Manager of Workforce Development and Training at E&J Gallo Winery. And then the second appointee new member of our panel is Mike Hill. Mike's also been in and around ETP for a very, very long time. Mike comes to us from Applied Materials, where he is the Senior Director of Talent and Organizational Development. So can you both wave your hands so that everybody can see who you are? So welcome aboard, the two of you. So this morning you will see two presentations, and both presentations have actions attached to them. The first presentation is going to be done by Mario Maslak, and he's going to be talking about the consolidation of funding in terms of the buckets of funding that we have in-house here at ETP. As you all know, we allocate our money, we distribute our allocation across 5 different funding buckets. And every year we do this nearing the end of the year so that we can maximize the utilization of ETP's funds and ensure that we contract out as much money as we can. So Mario is going to be talking about all of those buckets of monies and how we want to consolidate them so that we can meet the demand that's already in-house in terms of applications. Another thing that he's going to talk about, which I really wanted to provide a little bit of insight into, and then Mario will dive a lot deeper into, is in terms of the demand that's in-house already, it's the SET applications. As a reminder to you all, SET is by statute that we have a limit as to how much money we can spend in SET every year, and that's 15% of our total allocation in any given year. And we are approaching that cap. We actually have way more applications than we can actually fund in terms of SET applications. Right now in the regional offices where applications have already been begun to be processed, we still have some between $8 and $9 million in SET applications, and we only have about $4.5 million left this year, which then we're already processing these applications, so we'll need to carry the remainder of those applications in the RO into the next year. Mario's going to get a little deeper into that, but the big challenge is that the regional offices have, like I said, between $8 and $9 million. However, what's still in the applications unit at AAU is a large sum of applications also, probably in the neighborhood of about $12 million in SET applications, which we will just not be able to even take a look at or fund this year. So essentially, it's quite possible Mario and the team are really working hard to try and figure out how much of those applications we actually really truly can fund, because we don't know the actual amounts until we get through the development process. But it's likely that we may have to deactivate those applications and send them and have them reapply next year. Otherwise, we could essentially, if we try to carry all these applications in, we could essentially dissolve our entire SET application for allocation for next year before the year even starts. The remaining applications that we have in-house that are not SET, the operations team is really working hard to get those through the system. It's the reasons why Mario's asking for a consolidation of the buckets so that we can actually essentially fund the remaining demand of the remaining applications that are in the system now and that are not SET again. And we're looking to probably close our applications for this year. And then next month, you guys will see a presentation from EDD, LMID, the Labor Market Information Division folks, around priority industries for next year's applications. And then we will subsequently open up applications beginning in May. And Mario's going to talk more about that. The second presentation that you guys are going to get this morning is from Nancy Tran. She's going to be walking you through the 2022 annual report, and you'll get to see all the outcomes from the 2022 fiscal year, and then she'll be asking you all to approve that report as well. And then as far as updates, that's it for me, Mr. Chair. Unless the panel has any questions for me in particular, I'd like to hand it over to Assistant Director Peter Cooper for his report.
Excellent. Are there any questions from the panel? Okay, Mr. Cooper.
Hey, thanks, Reg, and thanks, Rick. Good morning, panel. So I just want to give you an update on some of our alternative funds. As you may remember, in addition to our core funding that we've been receiving a significant amount of alternative funds from the state's general fund. And specifically, I'll give you a quick update on where we are with our Healthcare Workforce Advancement Fund, WAF, HWAF, which is $25 million, and the Workforce Literacy Pilot Program, and that one's $10 million. So as I reported at previous panel meetings, we started taking applications for both of these programs on February 27th. The window for the applications just recently closed. It closed on March 20th, and we're currently in the process of reviewing those applications. We've seen really strong interest in both programs. Staff are in the process of doing some preliminary reviews, but I can give you a couple of numbers regarding the demand for both of the programs. So for the healthcare one, we have roughly 40, just over 40 applications, between 40 and 50 applications in that. And we have a demand of about between $35 and $40 million for the healthcare fund. So as I said, it was 25 million is what we have available. So we're going to be looking at the best way to support the applicants with the limited funding that we have. Then with a $10 million literacy program, we have about $12 million in demand, roughly a little bit over 40, about 42 applications. So for both of those, we have more demand than available funds, which is a good thing. And I really want to, first of all, mention my appreciation for staff for really going out there and engaging stakeholders and making sure that that not only our current stakeholders, but a broader group of organizations across the state know about these available funds. For example, with the healthcare, as you'll remember, this is allowing us to support not just the private employers in the healthcare sector, but also public. And with a single, with the literacy funds, we're going to be able to support some new groups, including community-based organizations. So I'm looking forward to that, that process and seeing more specifically what kind of programs we're going to be able to fund. So staff are going through the eligibility process, vetting those, and you as a panel will see the proposals at the June 9th or the July 21st panel meetings. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Tara Armstrong, who's our Deputy Director for our technical branch. Tara?
Thank you, Peter. Morning, panel members. I do have a slide to share today to go over our information technology update. Thanks, Tina. So under our CaliForce system and Cali program, we have the alternative funding application that Peter just mentioned did close. Looks like it went quite successful and we were able to get the applications in during the time period. We're also adding enhancements to our Kelly program to streamline the development process inside ETP. That's always an ongoing effort that we continue to look at. And next steps is looking at our panel proposal, how to streamline that. So our ETP 130 document, which is our panel proposal, looking to see how that can export from the system to have efficiencies within the development areas and under the regional offices. We're also looking at the application efforts that will come out of our Civic Makers effort and see how that can streamline that area as well. Under Cali grants, we're continuing to work with the California Workforce Development Board, so CWDB, and the Division of Apprenticeship Standards, working on the Cali grants application and management processes there. And lastly, under enterprise support and security, we're increasing our security measures. There will be an addition for a confidentiality statement that will be going in our registration process into Kellyforce. And that's the highlights for our IT area today. Let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the panel? Okay, seeing none, we will hand it over to Council Michael Cable, and welcome Eric.
Good morning, panel members. As usual, this will be a short legal update for you. And I have got two topics. First, a quick legislative report. By now, you should have received an updated legislation memorandum of pertinent bills for this 2023-2024 legislative session. It was emailed to you this morning, and we will be posting a copy of it on our website for the public to see. As noted during our last panel meeting, February 17th was the last day for bills to be introduced, and bills are currently moving their way through committees as they typically do now. The legislative memorandum identifies those bills that we're currently tracking, but please let me know if there's anything in particular, either any bills or topics that you would like us to add to the list. You can do that now after my report or by sending me an email directly, and we'll make sure it gets added to the list and start including them. Calendar-wise, the legislature begins its spring recess on March 30th, and they will reconvene on April 10th. It's still a bit too early, just as things are moving through committee and getting amended, to get too detailed with most of the bills that's in our memorandum, but there is one that I would like to bring to your attention, as Bagley-Keene and the ability to hold teleconference meetings has been a previous topic of interest by the panel. And that's SB 544, which is about halfway down on page 6 of 7 of your legislative memorandum. As noted in the memo, although the ability for us to continue teleconference meetings like we're doing now continues until July 1st, 2023, please note that SB 544 would essentially provide a more permanent fix, amending the Bagley-Keene code sections so that teleconference meetings like we're doing now would essentially continue indefinitely without having a new deadline. You may recall, as we've been going through the pandemic, we've had these time periods where we get to do it here and then it stops, and then we get to do it here until it stops. This would be more of a permanent fix. That is good news, but of course we don't count our chicks until they're hatched. So we're going to continue to monitor and update the panel as this bill progresses and moves through the legislative session. That's really the only bill I was going to point out today, but please let me know again if there's any bills that you'd like us to track, or if there's any questions that you do have. And I do have another item, but perhaps I'll pause here to see if anybody has any questions or want to add anything.
Thank you, Michael. Any questions from the panel?
Yeah.
Back to you, Michael.
Hearing none. The other item that I have for you today is an action item, and that's for our acting chairperson to appoint an acting committee member to our policy committee. Just quickly for your information and background, according to ETP's bylaws, the chairperson is the person designated for establishing committees and appointing committee members with, of course, the consultation with panel So knowing we need a third policy committee member, given Jan's departure, staff is requesting that our acting chairperson appoint an acting policy committee member to ETP's policy committee. So I would like to, at this point, hand it back to acting chairperson Smiles so he can consult with panel and designate one accordingly.
Excellent. Thank you, Michael. Does the panel have any questions or would like to appoint, make any suggestions?
Chairperson Smiles, I'd like to suggest that that you consider appointing incoming chairperson Rebecca Betancourt to that position and maintain the tradition of balance and leadership on that policy committee.
Excellent. Any other questions from the panel or any suggestions? Well, I happen to echo Gretchen's suggestion, and I would like to appoint Rebecca as acting committee member for the policy committee.
Excellent. That's exactly what I was needing. So I appreciate the panel's time and designation of our new
Michael,
policy
do you need a
committee.
motion? Is that like
Nope.
a second?
No,
or-
no, it's actually just the chair does the appointment. So
Great.
with the consultation. So I think now having done our consultation and having that appointment in the record, we've satisfied our obligation according to the bylaws. So I appreciate that. And I appreciate all of your time. Thank you.
And that is Rebecca Betancourt, just for clarification. Okay, so with that being said, we will turn it over to Jaime Gutierrez.
Thank you, Chairperson Smiles. Good morning and welcome panel members and stakeholders. I too would like to take this opportunity to congratulate Acting Chairperson Rick Smiles on his reappointment and welcome our new chairperson, Rebecca Betancourt, and our new panel member, Michael Hill. Congratulations and welcome to all three of you. I also thank you for the opportunity to provide a summary of the Employment Training Panel's funding. Regarding the funding, as Director Javier stated earlier today, the panel meeting is for approximately $66.4 million. That includes 5 approved delegation orders for a total of $229,540. Delegation orders are proposals capped at $75,000 and approved under the delegation authority by the director on a continuous flow basis. For this state fiscal year, ETP has approved a total of 58 delegation orders thus far. If all the proposals scheduled for this panel meeting are funded, the panel will be approving 17 projects today. After today's panel meeting, the Employment Training Panel will have approximately $27.2 million left in contracting capacity for this fiscal year 22-23. Regarding the demand, we have 160 applications in demand at the moment. 80 applications are currently with the regional offices in development. 64 applications are under review by the Application and Assessment Unit, and 16 applications are pending review. The estimated value of the 160 applications is approximately $30.1 million and breaks down as follows: $23.7 million in demand for single employer contracts, $3.8 million in demand for small business, $2 million in demand for multiple employer contracts, $454,776 in demand for apprenticeships, and at this point, we have 0 demand for critical proposals. Regarding the allocations, we are currently within our allocations for this state fiscal year 22-23. That is the final portion of my report, and I have one action item related to the consent calendar. Chairperson Smiles, I would like to request that the panel identify which, if any, proposals they would like to pull from today's consent calendar, and then for a motion to approve the consent calendar with the exception and identity of those proposals being pulled, which will be heard individually and in order.
Excellent. Are there any items or that would like to be pulled by any of the panel members? Okay, Jaime, I would like to pull tab 4, Doty Brothers. See that individually.
Right. Thank
Can I
you.
get a motion to approve the consent calendar with the exception of tab number 4?
So moved. Second.
Thank
Good
you.
enough.
So there's a motion to approve the consent calendar with the exception of tab number 4, which will be removed and heard individually. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries.
Thank you, Chairperson Smiles.
Thank you, Jaime. Okay, so the next order of business will be presentation, Mario Mistake.
Thank you, Chairman Smiles and panel members. My name is Mario Maslek. I'm the Chief of Program Operations at ETP. I just wanted to go through a few updates and reminders before we get to the action item. Just to recap some of the things that Peter has said, the Healthcare Workforce Advancement Fund and Literacy Fund have received just over 40 applications each. We received a lot more demand than available funds. We're looking to have the first approvals go to the June panel, with the remaining going in July. We're prioritizing our core funding, as Reg said earlier. We want to get all of those funds out by the end of this fiscal year, whatever applications we have other than the set funding, which I'll go into more detail later. I also wanted to touch briefly on the expansion, recapture, and amending up of funds. As you may remember, at the January panel meeting, we approved an amendment to the guidelines to allow us to amend up above the cap for those projects. We're currently in a process of recapturing the funds. That's still in progress. We're sending notices, second notices, terminating contracts which have zero performance, and so on. So currently we're not taking any amendment requests for those funds. We want to get our arms around exactly how much money we'll have to reinvest into the currently active contracts. We will eventually open a window and have performance criteria based on percentage of hours tracked in the system. Again, we're waiting to figure out how much money we have to reallocate before we open that window. We will essentially go based on the allocations from which these are recovered. So, MEC, single employers, apprenticeships, whatever is recovered will be reinvested into those individual allocations as we move forward. I want to also highlight that at the same January panel meeting, we have approved the allowance to request revisions to the term of the agreements all the way to 3/31/24 on any contract. So those we are processing right now. If any contractors wish to request an amendment that would extend their term to 3/31/24, those can be submitted right now. The only caveat to that is that if you are planning on amending up your contracts, I would hold off on that so you can combine those two requests together and make them together into one request. Moving forward to something that Reg was talking about, and I'm sure everyone's eager to hear about, is the set funding. Our statutory limit is 15% of ETP's available training funds. We currently have $4.5 million left of that allocation. Right now, as of right now, in the field, we have somewhere between $8 and $9 million in demand. So we are planning on funding the $4.5 million that we have available, and the remainder of that demand, some $4 to $4.5 million, will be funded the next fiscal year. So anything that's in the field is essentially safe. It will be funded either this year or the next fiscal year. Further, we have $12.5 million in additional set demand that's still in our applications and assessment unit. And that is likely going to be deactivated as we move into the next fiscal year, because that would essentially wipe out the demand for set funding for next year. So we would like to reset and start a new clock on that. Moving on, so essentially all of these efforts right now, what we're trying to do is to meet the current demand at ETP, To aid that, we are going to close the application intake on 3:30 at 5 p.m. on March 30th at 5 p.m. That's because the 31st is a holiday. So we will close it out at 5 p.m. on March 30th. I would like to encourage any and all contractors or applicants to submit their OSC applications as soon as possible if you'd like to be considered for this year's funding. Again, the deadline is on March 30th. Said funding is already maxed out with over 12.5 million that will likely be deactivated. We're also going to reopen our applications on May 1st for the next fiscal year, and we'll consider all allocations and everything from that point on, OSC and set, all of that for next year. Which at this point moves us to the memo that's included in your panel packet. We are seeking to maximize the use of ETP funds for the rest of this year and to move funds around to meet that demand. So we do have demand, as you've heard from Jaime's presentation. We have over $30 million in demand. We have 27.2 million available. The demand is just not in the right places. We're almost maxed out on the allocation for small businesses. But we are short on allocations, on the demand for allocations for MECs, small businesses, and critical proposals for the remaining fiscal year. So this happens most years, and usually towards the end of the year, like now, we seek approval from the panel to move these buckets around, move funding around. So in order to meet the demand, to essentially meet all of the demand that we have in the pipeline right now, we would like to request that moving of funds. This has been an all hands on deck effort to try to put out all of this funding by the end of the year. We're looking at a very large June panel meeting for that. Wanted to thank specifically our applications and assessment unit. They were the first to be hit by this wave of this effort, and they have cleared a lot of applications that have moved into the field now. Next up will be the field and the development of these applications. And of course, finally, our contracts review unit will have to vet all of the proposals and contracts once we get to June. So with that, staff is requesting the panel approve to reallocate funds between the contract categories that have demand to help maximize the utilization of the remaining fiscal year 22-23 funds. And I'm happy to take any questions or comments from the panel.
Excellent. Thank you, Mario. Thank you for that presentation. Do we have any questions or any comments from the panel? Seeing none, can I get an emotion to approve the reallocation of funds between the contract categories that have demand and to help maximize the utilization of the remaining funds?
So moved.
Second. Or sorry.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries.
Thank you, panel chair and panel members.
Thank you, Mr. Maslick. Next, we have a annual report, and chair will turn to Nancy Tran. Nancy, you're on mute.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear and see me okay?
Good morning. We can hear
Good
you.
morning, panel members, staff, and stakeholders. Welcome to Friday. I'm pleased today to be presenting the ETP annual report for fiscal year 21-22. Thank you so much, Tina, for bringing that slide up. Really appreciate that. So as the slide is being brought up, I wanted to kind of just take us back to the fiscal year 2021-2022. The pandemic really brought tremendous challenges. And back in 2021, if you guys remember, in California, we had this colored tiered, Okay, hopefully you guys can see me now. So back in 2021, in California, we had a colored tiered reopening system. If you guys recall, many of the businesses, especially restaurants, would pay closely attention to this to see if they could, open indoor dining to the public. And then as we progressed into 2022, that went away. State slowly started to reopen altogether. Travel restrictions were starting to get lifted, and most mask mandates were no longer being required. And we had this normalcy that was starting to come back pre-COVID. However, as we were returning back to this normalcy, we still had to deal with the aftermath of COVID-19, and the impacts can be shown in numbers. So in today's presentation, I'll be highlighting some of those numbers on how ETP performed, as well as some achievements as well. If we could go to the first slide. Thank you. So ETP was established in 1982. Don't worry, I'm not here to give an ETP history lesson this morning, but instead I do want to focus that in this annual report, we want to celebrate 40 years of ETP. We funded $1.9 billion in training, served 96,000 businesses, and trained and retrained 1.5 million workers. So I do want to take a moment to applaud ETP panel members, staff, and even the stakeholders on this great achievement for the 40 years of ETP. Next slide, please. Another milestone is that ETP has also reached 10 years in serving apprenticeship as well. Apprenticeship programs provide employers with skilled workers and provide workers with training that can lead into good paying careers. So over this decade, we've seen a growth in apprenticeship training programs with people seeking opportunities in construction trades. And so during those 10 years and continuing, we've approved $170 million in funding, 359 contracts, and 92,000 estimated trainees. Next slide, please. So as ETP continues to maintain operations through telework and panels continue on Zoom, we have had staff start to come into the office, and ETP has scheduled some of these panel meetings in person. So how did we perform? The panel over the course of the fiscal year 2021-2022 approved about 298 contracts, funding $102 million to employers. Next slide, please. So at the same time, we had 289 contracts that were ongoing and active, which served about 84,110 trainees until the end of that fiscal year. So when you combine the efforts from ETP of what panel have approved, as well as these contracts that were ongoing and active, ETP managed about over 580 contracts during that year. So again, taking a moment to kudos to ETP staff from efforts such as outreach, review and development, panel proposals, executing contracts, processing invoices, and even command center support, or kind of these efforts that we had for those 580 contracts, as well as kudos to panel members and stakeholders as well on your efforts on keeping businesses going, keeping their employees and hiring as we recover from the pandemic impact. Next slide. So in every given fiscal year, we also close contracts. In fiscal year 21-22, we closed about 310 contracts, and 76,000 employees completed training, and employers retain these employees. As I mentioned before, we did have to deal with the aftermath of the pandemic, and we did see an increase of incomplete contracts as well. So in the previous fiscal year of 2021, we had about 14 incomplete contracts. But in this annual report, we did see an increase in the annual report for 21-22 that we had actually 49 incomplete contracts. Many of these contracts were considered non-performing, which meant they didn't have any activity. And again, with the aftermath of the pandemic impact, many of these businesses meant some of those businesses weren't able to survive. Next slide, please. So the pandemic impact to businesses were massive, and especially to small businesses. ETP still continue to support small businesses and provide essential resources for the small businesses who may not have the ability to provide training for their workers. So as you can see here in the infographic, we over 70% of our core funds still went to small businesses, and 36% of that was to businesses with less than 50 employees. When we kind of looked at the comparison to the previous fiscal year of our annual report in small business to the 2021 annual report, ETP was able to maintain serving 2.1 thousand businesses. So it was good to see that even though we had some aftermath impacts of the pandemic, we did a great job maintaining that number. Okay, and then contracts served in the high employment areas, the panel targets training for workers in regions where unemployment rates are higher than the state average. During the fiscal year of 21-22, ETP continues serving contracts in high unemployment areas where we funded $5 million in training 5,500 workers. In this slide are the priority industries ETP funded in fiscal year 21-22. The manufacturing, we funded 26.7 million in funding in 961 businesses for over 37,000 trainees. The second priority industry, which is in construction, being the second largest at $16.4 million in funding, 1,821 businesses, and over 11,000 trainees. So when we did a comparison of how we did with the priority industries in the previous fiscal year to what we're showing here, we did see a decrease in the industries of how we served in construction, healthcare, and transportation. And again, this is due to that post-pandemic era, but manufacturing remained the same. Next slide, please. Post-retention wages. So over here in the graph here, we have trainee wage ranges and a 5-year comparison from the fiscal year 17-18 to the annual report of this presentation of 21-22. We were able to see a 5% increase in the post-retention wages when we did the comparison of those fiscal years. The average post-retention wage for workers unemployed at the start of training new hires was $19.39. And then the average post-retention wage for incumbent workers, retrainees, was $35.03. ETP tries to serve as many as possible. So this 5% increase was good, given that we were, again, we had some good highlights as well as not so great highlights from the pandemic impact. So it was really good to see that we had this 5% increase. Next slide, please. So as we jump into looking at trainee demographics, in the pie chart displayed here for the education, the trainees we had for that area was 50% of them were had a high school or GED degree. And then the bar chart that we have here displayed is the age group, and the largest group was in the age range of 25 to 30. And again, we have on the side there, comparing to the previous fiscal year, we saw that in this annual report, we saw an increase, 1% increase in ethnic Hispanic or Latino, a 2.5 increase for the age range group of 45 to 55, and saw a 3% increase of trainees with the education with some college. Next slide, please. And on to ETP initiatives and some of the special programs. So many of our initiatives are geared toward helping businesses, and ETP continues to support job creation, funding projects that demonstrate investments into the California economy and workforce. We funded $11.3 million, creating 6,640 jobs. And after the pandemic, as we saw folks returning into the workforce and as our economy was trying to recover, seeing that this many jobs being created in this annual report was awesome, especially for ETP's contribution to the economy. Next slide. ETP continues to support apprenticeship programs while working with the industries such as manufacturing to establish new ones. We funded $22.7 million and trained over 12,000 trainees. This was $4 million more funding than the previous fiscal year, and we trained 2,000 more trainees. As I mentioned before, we just celebrated that 10-year milestone for apprenticeship contracts, and we look forward to seeing more growth in these numbers. And ETP's training, veterans training programs help employed veterans and members of the National Guard to obtain high-skill, high-wage jobs in secure industries. In fiscal year 21-22, panel approved $2 million in funding to train 1,267 veterans. So wanted to make sure that we highlight those numbers there. Thank you to the veterans for their sacrifices and services to our country. Next slide. And for ETP's Cali Forest Contracting Management Database System, we now house 7 years worth of contracting data. What that means is ETP allows stakeholders to access current and previous contracts in one location, as well as their application for future ETP proposals. This was a monumental milestone for our department, and we are proud to report that on these efforts, that 2,300 contracts were migrated successfully, with about 175.6 million data points transferred into the Cali Forest system. This was a department-wide effort, and the number speaks to the amount of all the efforts from staff. So great job. Okay. One of the stories that I would like to share today is related to the ETP job creation program with Velara Corporation. Velara Corporation offers a wide range of building services, from heating to cooling to plumbing, solar installations, and residential and commercial properties in the Northern and Central California. So for over 7 years, they've set the standard excellence in the HVAC trade. Velara Corporation is proud to support and participate in initiatives that improve and enhance the communities in which they do business. Over the years, they have supported various programs that hope to have touched the lives of many, especially those who are in great need. Here we have that Velara received $564,000 in funding to create 500 new jobs, and trainees earned up to $24 an hour. A quote I would like to share today is from Kathleen Carlson, apprenticeship training coordinator. For over 75 years, Velara Corporation has been a recognized leader in heating and air conditioning industry, and in more recent years, the plumbing industry. Now more than ever, it is essential for us to maximize effectiveness of our investments in a diverse workforce, providing employees not only current job skills, but also leading edge in the workplace safety, digital technology, and vocational literacy courses. Our track record in successfully recruiting talent from the diverse backgrounds, including immigrants, refugees, justice-involved individuals, and veterans, continue to set our company apart from the rest. With the help of ETP funding, we have been able to give our personnel these critical skill sets and the best opportunities to pursue careers in our company. Furthermore, ETP has provided an opportunity to strengthen the relationship with the Workforce Development Board, the Sacramento Employment Training Agency, and gain additional support for recruiting and retaining talent. Next slide. So the second story we would like to also share is around the ETP Expansion Fund and Technology. This is with Creating Coding Careers. This is located in San Diego. It's a nonprofit organization which recruits, hires, train individuals who may feel like the career in tech is unattainable. Creating Coding Careers is committed to enhancing lives, enriching local communities by successfully placing high-trained, top-quality candidates at premier software companies. They're doing their part to reshape the tech industry to reflect the diversity of our communities. So Creating Coding Careers received $198,000 in funding to create 75 new tech jobs. One of the stories we would like to share today is William Broxton. He was a pastor before joining Creating Coding to Careers. ETP contract supports the ServiceNow, and William was selected as a tech teaching assistant for cohort of students participating in a Skills Bridge program. As he completed web development training, he's on a fast track career to a developer in the ServiceNow ecosystem. I would like to share his quote. William said that coding has helped me find new ways of solving problems, making me more creative as a designer, a developer, and musician. Learning to code has also allowed me to create a legacy for my children. They will grow up in a home with a father constantly tinkering and constantly learning. They will have a father who will always be building new things in new languages. To me, that's a powerful legacy to leave for the next generation of brilliant Black minds. So it's amazing to hear stories like this. Personally, for me, it makes me proud to hear that the work that we do over here at ETP, along with panel funding these kind of type of projects. We are making an impact to changing lives, and where we fund these kind of opportunities, creating the high skill, high wages. Next slide. And the final story we have here today is around the critical proposal job creation, manufacturing, oil and gas with Mountain Pass Mining. Mountain Pass Mining, they produce and process rare earth minerals. That's essential components used in wide range of clean energy, information technology, defense, and industrial applications. Mountain Pass is the only integrated rare earth mining and processing in North America, and Mountain Pass Mining has received $548,000 in funding to train 150 trainees and to create 170 new jobs. So a quote I would like to share with you today is actually from Michael Rosenthal, a CEO at Mountain Pass Mining. Our people are the most important asset, and the partnership we have established with Employment Training Panel will help us get the tools that they need to fulfill our mission to restore the full rare earth chain supply into the United States. Rare earth elements are essential to clean energy economy, and funding from ETP will help us produce them safely, efficiently, and in an environmentally responsible manner. Next slide. So that concludes the presentation for our annual report today. In this presentation, we've shown ETP panel and stakeholders the performance over the fiscal year of 21-22 and the ways that we contributed to the economy. Although we did have some comparison numbers that showed some impacts of the pandemic, we also were able to see some of the achievements and some progress ETP has had with the employers, communities, and even changing lives with career progression and the impact to the overall state's economy. So I did want to thank you, panel and stakeholders here today at the meeting, having me to present this annual report, and I will leave the floor open to any questions as well as requests for approval on this report from panel.
Thank you very much, Nancy. Are there any questions or comments from the panel? Are there any hands raised from the public for any comments?
No
On the
hands
report.
raised at this time, sir.
Thank you very much. So can I get a motion to approve the 2023 annual report?
So moved.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
thank you very much. I've got a motion to approve the 2023 annual report in a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Mr.
Vote nay.
Chair,
Yes.
before you take the final vote, you probably want to get some public comment on it.
Oh, okay. Were there any hands raised, Tina, from the public?
Sir Chairperson, there's no hands raised at this time.
Okay, very good. Okay, so that vote passes. I'd also like to go back to the previous motion for the allocation of the remaining funds. We didn't look to the public for any comments. So Gretchen, if I could get somebody to remake that motion.
I will remake that motion. Do exactly what we agreed to do and see if there's public comments on it now.
Excellent.
There are no hands raised at this time, Sir Chairperson.
Okay, with that being said,
I think we need to restate the motion very clearly so that the public does know what they're going to be making public comment on. We'll need to go back to the redistribution of the allocation, the funding allocations item, and then just ask for the motion for what Mario's asking for, and then get a second and then take public comment. Is that right, Mike?
Yeah, you read my mind. I was just going to chime in about the second because that's what makes it active. So we do need to be clear about the motion. Let's have a second of that motion that brings it up for discussion. And
Got you. So I will move a motion to approve the staff request for a panel to approve the reallocation of the funds between the contract categories that have the demand and to help maximize the utilization of the remaining fiscal year 2022-2023 funds.
I will second that motion.
Go ahead, Edmesta.
okay, and prior to the vote, do we have any questions or any comments from the public?
Sir Chairperson, I have one hand raised. Philip, you should be able to talk.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Good morning, Phil.
Good morning. I just want to thank Mario and his team about the expansion funds gathering of data, which applicants approved or are doing well on their money and who's not, and then giving us a clear path forward for those companies that are interested in adding expansion funds onto their current contract. We were a little bit in the dark. It was a clear presentation. Thank you very much. Good meeting. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Phil. Okay, so there was a motion and a second. Are there any other questions or comments from the panel? Seeing none, we will go ahead and all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. Thank you very much.
again, Chair and panel members.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Meslick. Okay, the next order of business will be review of the action item and proposals.
All right, panel members, please turn to tab 4. This is the one that was pulled from the consent calendar. It is for Doty Brothers Equipment Co. They are a repeat contractor requesting $496,800 to train 285 retrainees and 50 job creation trainees. Training will take place in LA and Kern counties, and union support letters for these proposed occupations have been received.
Ryan?
Yes.
Ryan, excuse me, I would like to go ahead and recuse myself from this application, and if I can turn it over to Gretchen.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson.
Thank you.
Handle this.
All right, joining today is Dave Wade, Safety Manager, and Lisa Douglas, Consultant.
Does the panel have any questions for this application? Seeing no hands raised, are there any members of the public that have their hand raised?
I have no hands raised at this time, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Seeing that there is no discussion on this item, is there a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Thank you.
I'll second that,
Thank
Madam
you.
Chair.
And just for clarification, panel member Tracy and Araceli Campos Ramirez, is the motion to approve the Doty Brothers Equipment Company contract number ET 23-0298 in an amount of $496,800.
I do apologize. Yes, it is, Gretchen.
Thank you very much. And the seconder of the motion is fine with that? Perfect. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those
Aye.
opposed? Thank you. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Okay. We can invite Chairperson Smiles back to the meeting, please, and then we will give it back over to him.
Thank you, Gretchen.
Thank you.
Welcome, panel members. Good morning. Let's turn to tab 11, following the consent calendar approval and review of all those items. This is a training proposal for Simpson Strong Tie Company, Inc. They are a priority industry and a repeat contractor. There is a union involved. It's a Sheet Metal Air Rail Transportation Local 170, Communication Workers of America, AFL-CIO Local 9415. Total ETP funding being requested is for $499,560. And that's to train an estimated number of trainees of 443 under Job 1, retrainee, which is within an HUA area, and 50 estimated number of trainees under Job 2 for job creation. Training in this proposal will include employees from the Stockton facility only, and this will be SST's 10th ETP contract, and it's 6th in the last 5 years. Here today are Sam Marco, Branch Technical Training Manager, Industry Outreach Coordinator, and Angela Jones, the subcontractor from TGII.
Thank you, Chris. Are there any questions or comments from the panel? Seeing none, do we have any comments from the public?
No hands raised at this time.
Thank you, Tina. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the Simpson Strong Tie Company, Inc. contract number ET 23-0306 and an ETP funding amount of $499,560.
And second.
Okay, thank you. There's a motion and a second to approve the ETP Simpson Strong Tie Company, Inc. contract number ET 23-0306. The amount of $499,560. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. Thank you.
Good morning, panel members. Good morning, panel members. Next, we have tab 12, a proposal from Mariani Nut Company. They are a first-time contractor requesting $463,680 to train 252 workers, including 36 new employees. Training will take place at Mariani Nut Company's location in Winters. Here representing Mariani Nut Company to answer any questions are Robin Stenson, Director of Human Resources, Deanna Reed, Safety Manager, Jeff Simmons, Operations Manager, Keith Brahma, Consultant, Propel Consulting Group.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the panel regarding this application? Okay, are there any comments from the public?
There are no hands raised at this time, Mr. Chairperson.
Can I get a motion from the panel?
I move that the Mariani Nut Company contract ET 23-0227 in the amount of $463,000, $463,680 be approved.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve this contract. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries.
Thank you, panel.
Good morning, panel members. I'll be presenting the proposals developed in the San Diego Regional Office. If you will please turn to tab number 13, Chaffey Community College District, Chaffey College. This will be Chaffey College's 10th ETP contract and 6th in the last 5 years. Chaffey College is requesting $599,752 in total ETP funding, and they plan to train a total of 468 retrainees over 3 job numbers. Chaffey College will be recruiting participating employers statewide, but with a focus on Riverside, San Bernardino, San Diego, Los Angeles, and Orange counties. The core group of participating employers represents 100% of the planned number to train. In addition, the core group of participating employers include 2 small businesses and 8 single employers. This training project will allow employers to provide the necessary technical skills training to help employers create a high-performance workforce that will stimulate and support growth within their business. For job number 2, to increase transparency, the maintenance staff/technicians, industrial electrical technicians, equipment operators, production and manufacturing staff retrainees have been separated from job number 1 retrainees. Chaffey College is requesting to increase the maximum training hours for job number 2 from 200 to 300 hours. The complete training course requires 472 hours of instruction because it is delivered at an intermediate to advanced level and covers numerous topics. This specialized training program focuses on a more detailed level of skills and knowledge training, specifically for electrical and industrial mechanical training. Chaffey College's 4 most recent prior projects have earned 58%, 100%, 96%, and 97% of their awarded funding amount. And their active project has potential earnings of $540,007, which is 61% of their awarded funding amount. Here today, representing Chaffey College and ready to address questions from the panel is John Fox, Manager, Employer Training and Development.
Thank you, Kellen.
Thank you.
Are there any questions or comments from the panel regarding this application? Okay, do we have any public comments?
There are no hands raised at this time, Mr. Chairperson.
Motion to approve the Chaffey Community College District contract number ET 23-0292 and an ETP funding amount of $599,752.
Second.
Excellent. There's a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? So will be the order. Thank you.
If you now please turn to tab 14, South Orange County Community College District, Saddleback College. This will be Saddleback College's 2nd ETP contract and 2nd in the last 5 years. Saddleback College is requesting $264,696 in total ETP funding. They plan to train a total of 269 retrainees over 2 job numbers. Saddleback College will recruit participating employers statewide, but with a focus on Orange, Riverside, San Diego, Los Angeles counties. The core group of participating employers represents 100% planned number to train. In addition, the core group of participating employers includes 3 small businesses and 2 single employers. This training project will collaborate with employers from the manufacturing and transportation and logistics industries that are experiencing consistent year-over-year growth, but are facing a shrinking skilled workforce. More and more employers are turning to community colleges to help upskill the knowledge from within their business in order to meet current demands. Training outlined in this project will support these employers address and help them address their workforce demands. Saddleback College's prior project earned $133,036, which was 33% of their awarded funding amount. Here today, representing Saddleback College, ready to address questions from the panel, is Israel S. Dominguez, Director of Economic and Workforce Development.
Thank you, Kellen. Are there any questions or comments from the panel? Okay, are there any questions or, are there any comments from the public?
No hands raised at this time, Sir Chairperson.
Thank you, Tina.
With that, Mr. Chair, I'd like to move motion to approve the South Orange County Community College District contract number ET 23-0299 in the amount of $264,696.
Second.
Thank you. There is a motion and a second to approve this contract. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Motion approved.
Thank you, panel members.
Hello again, panel members. Please turn to tab 15. This is a training proposal for the Corporation for Manufacturing Excellence, Mannix. They are a priority industry, or they serve priority industries as a MEC, and they are a repeat contractor. Total ETP funding is being sought for $599,256, and that's to train an estimated number of trainees of 609 under Job 1 retrainees. This will be Mannix's 8th ETP contract, and it's 5th in the last 5 years. The majority of the training will be conducted at the participating employers' facilities. And here today to answer any of your questions is Walt Tarpley, VP of Client Services.
Thank you, Chris. Are there any questions or comments from the panel?
Mr. Chairperson, I wanted to ask the applicant if they could elaborate a little bit for me about the wage range. I always get that tongue twister done. For the engineers, and it's ranging between $27 up to $85 an hour. I love the high portion of that, but I'm hopeful that the applicant can kind of elaborate as to when an engineer is coming in at $27 an hour, what the process is for them to achieve a higher wage.
So thank you for the question, Gretchen. For engineers, as you're aware, the wages are usually much higher, but some of the positions that are titled as engineering positions don't necessarily have degreed engineers in some of those positions. And so because of that, the wage ranges may be lower. Also, there's some people that are included in that who are engineering interns. And so again, those wages are in that lower range.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate the feedback on that, and I'm very glad to hear that you pay your interns.
Yeah, fortunately for Mannix, we're not directly employing any of those people. Those are with our client groups.
Gotcha. Mr. Chairperson, I have no further comments or questions.
Thank you very much. Okay, are there any other comments or questions from the panel? Okay, seeing none, are there any questions from the public?
No hands raised, Sir Chairperson.
Thank you, Tina. Okay. Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve the Mannix application contract number ET 0300 and an ETP funding amount of $599,256.
And a second.
Thank you very much. We have a motion and a second to approve this contract. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? This applicant is approved. Thank you.
Thank you, panel.
Next, we have tab 16, a proposal from California Manufacturers and Technology Association. They are a repeat contractor requesting $599,570 to train 1,114 trainees. Training will be delivered primarily at the participating employers' work sites throughout California. Here representing California Manufacturers and Technology Association to answer any questions are Nathan Daly, CMTA Database Administrator, Lance Hastings, CMTA President.
Thank you, Phil.
Really, yeah, if available for questions, but we appreciate the longstanding relationship we have with ETP. And as was mentioned earlier, coming out of COVID, making sure that we're training the small and medium manufacturers for the future is really our top priority. And we look forward to working with ETP and our members throughout the contracts. Thank you all.
Thank you for that comment, Mr. Hastings. Are there any questions or comments from the panel regarding this applicant? Seeing none, are there any questions or are there any comments from the public?
No hands raised at this time, Sir Chairperson.
Thank you, Tina. Can I get a motion?
With that, Mr. Chair, happy to make the motion to approve the contract for CMTA contract number ET23-0291 in the amount of $599,570.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and second. Are there any other comments from the public?
No hands raised, Sir Chairperson.
Okay, we have a motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? This application is approved. Thank you.
Thank you, panel. Next, we have tab 17, a proposal from California Workforce Association. They are a repeat contractor requesting $577,980 to train 590 trainees. Training will be delivered primarily at the participating employers' work sites throughout California. Here representing California Workforce Association to answer any questions are Sue Lohr, Program Analyst, Rosa Hernandez, Consultant, Hernandez Consulting.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the panel regarding this application? Okay, can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chair, to approve the contract for California Workforce Association, contract number ET23-0276 in the amount of $577,980.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Are there any comments from the public?
No hands raised, Sir Chairperson.
Okay, with that, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Motion passes.
Thank you, panel.
Okay, so that concludes the applications. At this time, are there any requests from the panel members for the agenda for any future items or future panel meetings? Okay, do we have any hands raised for any public comment on matters not on the agenda?
I have one hand raised, sir.
Thank you.
Philip, you should be able to speak.
Okay, me again. Just want to welcome the two new panel members. As far as Mike Hill, I've known him for almost 15 years now. He'll be a great addition to an illustrious panel already. He brings a fresh perspective from advanced manufacturing. He's been in Silicon Valley, from the fab to the learning development room to whatever as a corporate trainer, adjunct professor at San Jose State. So I'm really looking forward to working with him and the two new panel members. Excited for this next fiscal year. Great job, everyone. I will see you soon.
Thank you, Phil. Are there any other public comments, hands raised?
There are no other hands raised, Mr. Chairperson.
Okay, once again, I'd just like to welcome Eric, Rebecca, and Michael. Wonderful to have you guys, and we look forward to seeing you in the future panel meetings. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Thank you, guys. This meeting is adjourned.
Happy Friday.
Enjoy, everybody. Enjoy your weekend.